when you guys are used to dealing with the heat, but like this is worse than usual by Nashville standards. How do you deal with that and still get stuff done?
It's funny. This is actually, to me, one of the better days we've had in a few weeks because we actually got a little breeze going today. I talked to the guys at the end there. We have obviously big aspirations for the season, and we talk a lot about that. And sometimes when you feel like you talk about and you come out to do the work and you wilt a little bit, it doesn't feel good. We have to grow up, and we're going to have to transform so we can dominate the elements rather than try to adjust our process right now to account for the elements. Now, my job as coach is to make sure I'm mitigating heat exposure and not, each player only has 2 hamstrings, so we can't sit here and spin it. Today was 90 minutes of work. I think we got to get tougher, but that's a process of transformation. So we're paying attention to the conditions. I know that probably for the next couple we're going to have some similar, and then hopefully it'll start to get a little cooler and we'll get to the kind of the brunt of the work. But decent day. I want to see a little more attack sustained through practice.
What can Trey Richardson add to this team?
Well, Trey is he's a dynamic athlete. I think there's pure speed there, but there's also playmaking ability. There's twitch. He's a natural catcher. So one thing I've been impressed with through the summer with Trey is that when the ball's in his catch radius, he comes down with it. And so there's always room for that kind of player. It's another weapon for Diego. And with what we do offensively, obviously, with a guy with that skill set, there are a lot of ways he can have impact.
Can we get an update on statuses for Mark Davis and Simeon Moore? I know is long-term.
Sim's long-term. Kivo Wesley is going to be long-term. That for Kivo was an injury this summer that I don't know that he's going to make it back in time to compete this season. We'll go through a process with him to see where that nets out for him. With Mark, he had a knee scope right at the end of summer that was meant to kind of clean up some things that were creating some swelling in his knee. My expectation right now, give me some grace here, that he'll be prepared to play against Charleston Southern. I know I want that for him. I know our team wants that for him. Obviously, that guy's been through a lot. He had a great winter, great summer, great spring. So he'll pick right back up where the progress line was for him, but he needs some time here just to get that knee healthy.
Is that enough to affect where you play Martell?
Not right now. We played him today on defense. He spent the summer focused on offense. So this is going to be the first few days here, getting him back defensively. That has nothing to do with Mark. That's just about making sure he's balanced. We'll also have him in times where it's a special teams meeting, and as we go in times where it's special teams periods of practice, he'll be working with whatever side of the ball he's not practicing on. I would expect by the time we're at Sunday that he's going to be with the offense. So, we're gonna move him back and forth. At that point, he'll start off on defense just because he's getting back reacclimated.
What does the defensive work implementation look like with Steve Gregory as a defensive coordinator this season as opposed to last season, just throughout fall camp as you get going?
In terms of the installation and all that?
Yeah, are there any differences as opposed to your role as the DC last year?
Yeah, I get a chance to pull back a little bit and to coach the team and to make sure that we're all aligned. But I'm going to be in every defensive staff meeting, and I'm going to be a part of every defensive unit meeting. And I have some land I'm farming within kind of our defensive process that will keep me teaching. That's really important to me. So last night I was with the guys, and as far as our process too, how we script, how we card review, the things we do to prepare for practice and execute practice, that won't change either. And I'm going to be closely involved in how we evolve it forward. And that happens very naturally because Steve and I have that level of connection. So I've certainly, I'm not going to be involved in calling the play. And even as we go, Steve has taken over the process of how we're installing the package. But all of that's been collaborative up to this point, and so there's nothing there that's going to be new or something that I wasn't aware of or didn't have a hand in kind of shaping.
Clark, how would you describe Diego's first day of practice?
You know, I don't know that I could speak specifically to it. I obviously, you know, I thought Blaze Berlowitz actually had a good day, you know. So let me give him a little bit of shine. Obviously, I was standing back with the offense a bunch today, and I was impressed with Diego, his focus each snap, his awareness of where the ball needs to go each snap. And he's been away at a funeral, so, you know, he's getting back with the team today and kind of getting after it. But he seemed to pick up right where he left off. I thought we made good decisions on the whole with the ball, and, you know, on the whole, a good day.
Well, to follow up on that, what did you like about Blaze?
It just seemed like he was throwing with confidence. I mean, he threw the ball, the open receiver was there. He wasn't trying to force things. I thought he made a couple plays, one on a glance route that he kind of threw off his back foot, trusted the receiver was going to be there. I thought he made some nice throws on vertical balls as we got down into the red zone area. So just, you know, the throw and the catch and the timing, you know, just the confidence to know where the ball needs to go, I thought was improved. So, you know, he needs to keep building on that. Obviously, he's got a big role for us, so we need to keep him coming on.
You guys have more returning production than just about anybody. How much does that help you this time of year?
I think it obviously, I mean, the familiarity. You know, one of the things I think we're growing some new O linemen in our program, and so they're not all the way familiar with our process and how we practice. And I think that showed up today. So they got to acclimate quickly. Those guys that return, they know how we operate, and so it gives you the chance to be efficient, to have expectations. Honestly, to have peer-to-peer accountability for that part of our process. But I also think it can be a bit of a crutch. It can be something that becomes a negative if you think that somehow that entitles you to being better. So we got to be really careful to use the good of it. Hey, we know what to do out here. We can hold each other accountable to our expectations. Obviously, we don't have to, you know, defensively, we got basically everything in right now, which is huge. But we have to chase progress. And so we can't sit back and just assume that we're 1 year better. We've got to go make some things happen.
Do you know if the south end zone building is going to be like complete, you know, for the opener?
I know that they are working so hard on it, and my assumption is that by the time we're putting the ball on the tee, that it will be done. Now, I don't know where I am in the you know, pecking order of knowing exactly how it transpires, but they may be, you know, putting the last nail in and tightening the last screw as we're lining up. My expectation is it's going to be done. I know they're working really hard to get it done.
I thought you were out there directing work.
They don't want that. I can assure you.
Coach, how much limiting of key players, especially offensively, guys, you know, you mentioned the defensive system being in, the offensive system is in as well. Is there any more limiting of offensive players in fall camp just to kind of build up rest before the season?
We'll do that. I mean, obviously, right now this is about building capacity. So I think the focus we have at this point is in pushing, you know, and that means everyone over there. Because for as good as Eli Stowers is, or as good as Diego is, or as good as Cole Spence is, or you name it, Junior Sherrill, those guys have to build a capacity, because you can't have fun playing unless you can attack the field. And, you know, when you're getting dragged through because you're not in the right condition, you're not going to be able to play to your level of ability. So we'll build capacity early. That'll be a push. I need to be smart with how and when I pull back and allow for our team to be fresh. We've got a 6-game stretch to start the season that starts with Charleston Southern that, you know, will culminate after a trip to Tuscaloosa with a bye week. And we need to be at our best in each one of those 6 contests. So there's thought process put into how we spread load throughout camp. And again, it was a 90-minute practice today. I think last year we started with 100. You know, we are looking at the tightest of margins here to try to train this team in an effective way to get us whole and ready to pounce. And so we'll take the individual case by case. Right now, what I want to see them do is build capacity through the training.
Is there a need for Junior Sherrill to take a step forward at all?
He is taking a step forward, and I've been really impressed with his leadership, his presence in that room. That receiver room is one that I think took some major strides a year ago, in terms of their attack and their mentality. When you look at the difference between how we played in 23 and how we played in 24 as a team, I think a lot of that was representative in how our receivers played in big moments with big catches, but also blocking on the perimeter. In fact, I showed the team yesterday a cut-up of some examples of our past, how we blocked on the perimeter versus how it looked a year ago. And the point was that, you know, a receiver comes here to catch the ball. Well, there's one ball, but there's a way for me to impact every play that I'm in the game. And that means I understand every part of my role, and blocking on the perimeter is a part of the edge we want to have as a team. And so when you talk about getting a run game going, you talk about getting Diego going and the quarterback run game or option, it's going to come down to our ability to put our face on people and sustain blocks. That needs to be a part of that DNA. Well, Junior's taken that identity we crafted last year, and he's pushing that room from the front to be there. He's also in great physical condition, and I expect him to have a breakout year, build on his year from a season ago, and make some big plays for us.
Second year under strength and conditioning coach Robert Steiner. What is another offseason under him meant for the progression of this team in terms of athleticism, body composition, those sorts of things?
Well, we're bigger, faster, stronger. You look at a guy like Mason Carter, who I think now is 245 pounds. You know, he came in at 213 pounds, I think. And that I could take that physical. I mean, we have AB came in at 306. He's 320 now. Jalen Stone came in at 280. He's 306 now. So, and that's a team effort. You know, I think there's a nutrition component to that where we're doing a great job in that area of assigning needs and really addressing the needs of each player. But obviously, I give a ton of credit to Coach Steiner and his staff. And again, you know, I thought last year we were a more physical team because of his efforts. This year, we're going to take that a little further. And it shows up in our numbers, our measurables. Now it's the coach's turn to take all the work that Steiner and his staff put in and shape it into really great football.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.